landscape photography. I'm Grant Swinburne and I'll be your host on this show, talking to landscape photographers about their motivations, likes and dislikes. Astrid Preisz is a deeply expressive photographic artist whose work celebrates the emotional resonance of nature, curiosity and the unfiltered self. Based in Austria, she came to photography late in life, turning to it in 2020 during a difficult personal chapter following the death of her parents. What began as a creative escape became a powerful form of self-reconnection. Influenced early on by Alistair Benn, Astrid embraced a style rooted in intuition and exploration. Her work moves beyond representation into metaphor, often using techniques like multiple exposures and handmade artist books to tap into her internal landscape. She describes her creative approach as playful, emotional, and boundlessly curious, valuing discovery over perfection. In this episode, Astrid discusses the importance of living authentically through art, how nature helps her reconnect with herself, and why she chooses a more selective relationship with social media. She also shares the joys and lessons from photographing Iceland's wild terrain and the misty beauty of Scotland. For Astrid, photography is more than image making. It's a way to be whole, to feel deeply, and to offer those feelings to the world. I hope you enjoy the show.
G'day, Astrid. Welcome to Landscape Photography World. I hope you're doing well. Thank you for agreeing to be on the show.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm pretty good. It's hot outside, but that's what it is. I'm passionate to be here.
Excellent. It's a little bit cooler where I am. We've got a breeze blowing, gusts up to 125 kilometres an hour.
Oh,
It's a little breezy, but let's not stop the conversation. Why don't we start with what photography is in your life? What does photography mean to you?
Oh, that's a good question because I started photography pretty late in my life. Actually, I've picked up a camera first 10 years ago in 2015. And this was after an extended period of caregiving for my parents. And when my mother finally died, I felt that there was nothing left of me and I needed something for myself. And that's when I got a camera. I was just running around, pointing it at stuff that I liked, that I felt was interesting, but I didn't get really. So at that point, it was a lifesaver because I wanted to gain my own life back, do something for myself. I did get a bit more serious about it in 2020 during COVID, when I really had time to really start looking into it, what it could mean for me and what it could be for me. And that's when it really took off for me in terms of what it really meant for my life.
Okay. I want to dig a little bit deeper into that. And that seems to be when the art started for you. I'm always interested in that journey from usually people start with a documentary. Taking, as you said, taking images of things around you, family, friends and whatever. And then at some point, a little thing clicks in your head and goes, hey, this is actually an artistic pursuit.
Yeah.
When and how did that happen for you? Can you describe what that feeling was like?
It didn't even start as an artistic pursuit for me in 2020. What it started being for me was a way to, I was in a pretty dark place at that time. I was stressed out, I was burned out, I was depressive, to get out of my head. And at this point, I pointed my camera at everything. And I thought I wanted to be not a professional photographer, but I wanted to become a better photographer. Quotes. And I had no idea what this meant. So, but I think, to become a better photographer, I need my own style. I need to find a niche in the world. And I wasn't sure, did I want to become a wildlife photographer or a landscape photographer, whatever photographer, but I felt I needed something. And then in 2020, when I had more time, I started watching YouTube videos and exploring the life of photography and photographers out there. And I ran into Alistair Benn at that time.
Okay.
And I absolutely loved his vision about what photography could be. And in 2021, I started a mentorship with him. And one of the first things that I learned were you don't need your own style to be a good photographer because you are a different person every day. And that clicked with me immediately. And what I gained at first out of all of that was a freedom to explore. And I was doing wild stuff. I was going abstract, and I felt all these boundaries and borders dissolve in a way. I didn't want to think outside the box. I wanted whole boxes to be gone. I didn't want to be put in a box, to be a landscape photographer, an abstract photographer, and whatever photographer. And that was amazing for me. And the moment it started helping me with my mental health, and it started helping me to explore myself more, it in a way started to become an artistic pursuit, but I wasn't really conscious about that at that time. That took me way longer. But what it was for me was something where I could pour all my emotions into, because I was not a very open person. I was very closed down and wearing an armor and being very guarded around other people. And for me, photography became a door opener for so many things. And that's when I became really passionate about it. So that's where the beginnings.
Fantastic. I really love that for you. And I think that journey is something that's just absolutely wonderful to hear. What motivates you creatively now that you've gone through the doorway, if you like, into the artistic pursuit of photography? What is the motivation that keeps you going?
First of all, nature is an inspiration for me, has always been an inspiration for me. But as you will have seen, it's not so much documenting just what's out there. So I'm trying to show not what I see necessarily, but what I feel when I see these things. It's like a whole body experience. So that's a huge motivation for me. And I think another huge motivation for me is just my own curiosity. And I like to see things from sometimes a weird perspective and a different viewpoint. So what I like doing when I'm out in nature and when I'm pointing my camera at stuff is seeing differently in a way. Alistair and I sometimes are joking that I'm making photographs of nothing, because when I started my photography with a mirrorless camera, so I always saw things through my viewfinder. And sometimes I just fall into, I'm in an environment and I look through my viewfinder and I play with all the settings and I see things that are not there, that you can't see with your own eyes. And this is what just gives me a lot of joy. I see what's out there, but sometimes what I see in my camera is like a third eye that I have somewhere. Seeing something differently, that's what's important for me. And that's what makes it fun. And at some point, I stopped just limiting myself to photography and I started exploring other techniques. So first I started with playing with photography, with multiple exposures and composites and stuff like that. Then I started collaging and painting and jelly printing and cyanotyping. And at the moment, there is just a wealth out there in the world to be explored. And I love that.
Fantastic. I'd like to talk a little bit more about that expressive photography, as I know Alistair calls it, and how that has evolved for you. Looking at photography from an expression of feelings as opposed to necessarily that what you're seeing and documenting what you're seeing.
Yeah.
I'm really interested in how that journey has happened for you and how long it took you to get your head around expressing feeling as opposed to expressing just what you
I'm still on the path. It's not something that's finished somewhere. So it's like a good friend told me a while ago when I was talking about perfection, because I'm really afraid of perfection. I don't like perfection. I'm always looking for the imperfect and for the weird and the odd stuff. And what she said to me was, and that resonated, was the word perfection, it comes from being finished. When it's perfect, it's finished, it's done. There is no further evolution. And that's why I like to stay with the imperfect stuff. And when you're talking about the development of expressing my feelings with photography, as I said at the beginning, it was this, because I was not in a good place and I wasn't capable of talking about that. So using my photography and my stuff was really dark at that time, dark and weird, and it was not something you would put on Instagram and expect a lot of.
There's some pretty weird stuff on Instagram.
Yeah, but that was my possibility to express all that stuff that couldn't go anywhere, that I wasn't able to talk about. And it was at this point not so much expressing something for somebody else to understand, but just getting it out of my system.
Yeah.
Then for a while, I really tried to express things and make them really clear what I'm feeling through my photography, somehow expecting other people to understand what it was about. And then I realized that's not going to happen, because this is a sort of communication that's even more complicated than oral communication, because when we are talking to each other, we never fully understand what the other person means.
No.
And it's much worse with a visual language, because it's so subjective. So for me, it was always important that I feel something when I take a photo in the field. It's not, I don't know what I feel at that moment. It's just something happens and I react to visual triggers, but also to other sensual triggers, something I hear, bird song or the light coming in, whatever. But when I open that photo in Lightroom or whatever software I might use, and I feel a connection with it, then I know that I need to do something with it. Then I am there. And the connection I usually don't feel in the field. It's all reaction. It's no planning. It's just being there and soaking it all in. So I realized that at some point I can't make images or create art for other people. I need to create them. That stuff needs to be created for me first. I can put it out there, and I'm really longing for sharing and for this human connection with my work, but I don't expect that people see the same things I see when they look at it. Yeah. And it brings me a lot of joy when I get feedback and people say, this image means that for me, or that's what I see, or that's what I feel when I look at it. And it's completely different from what I was feeling when I was making this image. So yes, expressing myself, expressing something, but with a curiosity, what others might see. And the worst thing is, if they don't see anything, I need to accept that. But I'd rather have them not like it or being appalled or being really, I hate it, than it does nothing for them. So
fair enough. Rather polarize people than
absolutely. Yeah, and I tend to do stuff where I know that triggers people and weird compositions, and I hate rules. I'm an anarchist. If I see a rule from far, I go the other way. So it's yeah.
I really like that approach. My perspective, I do a lot of more, I guess, run of the mill landscape photography, seascapes and that sort of thing. But I must say, I really enjoy your work, and I must say I enjoy creating stuff for the sake of creating it and seeing things that other people might not look at. It might just be a bunch of rocks in the bottom of a hollow or something. But to me, they make pleasing shapes, and so I'm going to kind of what you're doing when you're looking around the landscape and looking for things.
Yes, because even if some of the stuff that I come up with in the end might look very abstract, and I'm not even talking about the real abstract stuff where I composite and do multiple exposures, but still, even the images where I just have a very different perspective. What triggers me in the first place is just what you said, maybe this little assortment of rocks, or I was photographing tiny seed pods last week. And they were so intriguing to me. And I was aware of the fact that most people won't see them because they don't look. They walk through the world without looking at these tiny things, or the things that are just not, they're very mundane stuff out there. Yes, I'm also intrigued by beautiful sunsets and beautiful sunrises when I love photographing the sea. And it's all the same things that maybe more traditional photographers intrigued by, that I am intrigued by too. I just try to approach them a little differently and see them from a different perspective. But still, for me, for a while, I said, I'm not a landscape photographer. Maybe I'm not a photographer at all. Maybe I'm just a creative person who does creative stuff, because I was so trying to not be put in a box. But I realized deep inside, I am still a landscape photographer, because that's what inspires me most. When I'm out there, I'm happy. When I'm out in nature, when I'm walking in the forest, or when I'm at a beach, or when I'm at a river, that's what makes me happy. Nice. And that's what fuels me. Okay. So I guess I am a landscape photographer still. But everything
bar pure portrait, wedding, commercial, product photography, just about every photographer is a landscape photographer. Street photographers are landscape photographers, like it or not. I think if they're focusing on the people element and the people are dominant in the frame, that's slightly different. What I'm talking about is architectural street scenes, broader street views and those sorts of things. They're all part of our landscape. They might be man-made or built. Yeah. They're still part of the landscape. So I take a very broad view of what landscape is. Exactly. As I say, just about everything bar your pure portraits and product photography. Yeah. Landscape photography as far as
it is, yeah. Yeah, it's true. And we live in this world, and it influences us and the image. Yeah. And even there are times when I come back with nothing that I like. And that's a good thing too, because we can't create 24/7 every day of the year. There are different moods, there are different.
And we can't create masterpieces of that.
No, definitely not. Definitely not. Yeah, and we all get
Sorry, go on.
Yeah, and we all get these episodes where we think, I can't do anything at the moment. Nothing works. Absolutely. I think that's something we all get.
Yeah. I normally ask this question a bit later in the podcast, but I'll bring it up as you brought it up. What do you do when you're not feeling it? When you're feeling a lack of inspiration? What sort of things you do to try and feel that?
Yeah, it's not easy. It's never been easy. At the moment, it's hard. I was sick. I am not very motivated at the moment. Sure. I go out with my camera. I come back and I look at what I have and I think, meh. Yeah. And then one thing that I like to do is do something different and just stop using the camera for a bit, and then I go into my studio and maybe do something with paint or get my hands dirty. I started making handmade books. At the moment, I get some hands-on stuff to do that gets me out of my mind. And I've learned to know that this is something that happens to everybody. And it happens to the big names out there. It happens to the famous people. They all have it and they all get it. And it's something that will pass. And I'm very sure that some and many of these episodes that we have where we just think we're just not creative. We lost our creativity in a way. They are just hibernating periods. And something new might emerge. Some new ideas might emerge. Some new inspiration might emerge. And we just need to get ourselves through it. And what I learned is the more I try to force it, the worse it is.
Yeah.
If I try to force myself, I need to get out now and I need to make proper photographs and I need to get it. And I put so much pressure on myself that I just can't be the intuitive person that I need to be when I want to make something that speaks to me and hopefully speaks to other people. So what I'm doing at the moment is I'm dealing with it. I'm not very happy with it. I was out this morning with my camera and I realized that I didn't have a card in my camera. So it happens. But I really try to not put too much pressure on myself and really tell myself, it's not, you didn't lose it. Your creativity is still there. Try to do something else and don't be too frustrated about it because that doesn't make it better. It doesn't make it better. It needs to be something joyful, not something that I put pressure on myself. Life is hard. You get a lot of pressure from many things. And I shouldn't get pressure from my photography, I think.
It's a pursuit that is all about joy and enjoyment.
I think so.
You're not enjoying it, then for a bit. And eventually you will go out
and
go, okay, I feel like doing something creative today.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people do fall into the trap of trying to force themselves through those periods where creativities are in a bit of a lull. And as you said, I think everybody has them. It is impossible to be creative.
You can't. Yeah. And what I also learned is, for me, very often when we're talking about creativity, people talk about producing something. And I think that we need to just separate the idea of creativity from the product in a way. I can be very creative and not producing any output. I can have very creative thoughts. It happened to me some years ago when I was on a photography trip and my gear was stolen before the trip.
Oh.
So I ended up with just my phone, my old iPhone. At that time, it was a very old one. So I had the choice, either just say, okay, that's it, nothing's going to happen, or just go with the flow. And I made photos with my phone. And that taught me that my creativity doesn't stop when I don't have my camera with me, that I am creative even if I haven't had my phone. All the things that I saw and that I processed in my mind and that had an impact on me, and there was so much creativity involved still. I think the whole life is creativity. We solve problems all the time. We find solutions. We are creative all the time. So it still happens, even if we don't produce something or make an image, make a piece of art.
Yeah. I think that sort of goes with that whole, I don't want to label everybody like this because it's not every photographer that is like content creation treadmill that seems cling on. Because if you want likes or you want to be seen in the photography universe, then you've got to be producing something and got to be out there every day.
Yeah.
And that treadmill, I think, can actually be quite a grind and something that is counterproductive for creative people.
Yeah.
I know that I've fallen into that trap myself on a couple of occasions early on. And since then, I have learned to just say, all right, who cares if nobody likes it? Who cares? Did I enjoy the experience of going out and getting the shot? Did I enjoy the experience?
Exactly.
And yes, I'm sharing it with the world, but as you said earlier, if nobody likes it, okay. If they hate it, fine. But just when nothing happens, you go, but don't worry about it, and do not try to post every day now. I just post something edited.
Yeah.
And if I go on a trip and I take some shots and I come back with, say, 50 or 60 images that I think are worthy of actually putting onto social media, I'll do it. But I don't feel any pressure to do that, and I don't feel any pressure or time pressure to actually do that every day. Exactly. And I think for me, that's a far healthier place to be mentally than sitting there on that treadmill, running there.
Yeah, exactly. Posting an image on Instagram and every 2 minutes checking if you have another something like that.
It's walk just away and forget it.
Yeah. I remember when I started photographing and I went on a trip, I had tons and tons of images. And when I got home, I tried to edit them almost all. And of course, you always have a lot of images that just don't work. I remember that I tried so hard to make them work.
Yeah,
so I tried to force them. I really tried to force them. And now I'm much more, I have much fewer images. I've slowed down a lot, and I try to be out there and just be in the experience. And when I edit an image, I really try to just edit the ones where I feel they're speaking to me, and I follow their lead. I don't try to, if an image doesn't, I might start with it, and at some point I think, okay, that doesn't, I don't do a lot of editing. I don't take a lot of time for editing. And when I feel that doesn't work, I stop. And when I started photographing, I didn't stop. I tried to force it into something that it wasn't. So that's not, but maybe I can make it. And usually it doesn't work. Yeah. So what I enjoy now is, and I still have a lot of images that I haven't edited from the last 2 wonderful trips that I did last October and in January. And I think these were the trips where I most was capable of really slowing down and getting into this mindset of enjoying myself out in the landscape and just sitting under a tree, one tree for 2 hours and staying with that one tree. And it really felt so invigorating and liberating at the same time that I don't have to run around like a mad woman getting as many images as possible. Yeah, you get what I mean? Or just being there without my camera and just sitting there. And I did that when I was in Scotland last year. It was a retreat and I just went out there and I just felt like sitting in the forest for 2 hours and I didn't take a photograph. And it felt so good because I thought I don't have to be active with my camera all the time.
Yeah, just because
it's there. Yeah, yeah.
No, that's fantastic. You talked earlier about experimentation being part of your ethos. Yeah. And I'm interested in how experimentation in your work and as a means of expressing yourself. What sort of things, you mentioned a few, cyanotype and gel printing. What are there other things that you're doing that are exciting to you that you like experimenting with?
I always say there's no rabbit hole existing in the world that I'm not going down. Yeah, but I haven't seen things that are very intriguing. The first thing that I started experimenting with was multiple exposures.
Yep.
And I still like doing that, but it's too technical and too brainy for me. I like doing it, but in the end, my photography is very intuitive. And when you're doing planned multiple exposure and you're layering stuff in the camera, you need to think a lot about how the layers interact and how the blend modes interact. And after half an hour, I'm done. I need to go back to using straight photography because it exhausts me. Okay. And it's too much planning for me. And I get something good out of it that I like, but very often I don't. And it's the same with compositing. I love doing it and I very often like the result. But what I often miss when I just do very abstract compositing is that inner emotional connection because it's more about the shape and about the color but there is something missing for me. So it's very hard to explain, but I feel more comfortable with the stuff that I get right out of my intuition and that I don't need to sit down at my computer and work for 2 hours and to manufacture something. I think manufactures the work. Needed to be more spontaneous and not that manufactured. So that's the first thing that I started working with. And then I started discovering all that stuff that I can do with my hands. A lot of it is still linked to photography, like cyanotypes. I started experimenting with that. Mm-hmm. Then I started trying to do stuff with my photos, print them and then put something on them, layering something on them, work them into collages. Just don't stop with a digital image because the digital image is just a digital image. I like to have things in my hands. That I tried, and then I ran into the world of artist books, which I find absolutely fascinating. So I started printing my images and making them into little booklets. And I only do them for myself or as presents for people that I love, and I give them away. But I don't. People ask me, I would like to buy one of these. I don't sell anything. It's just artist books. This stuff is a lot of work, and it's just for me. It's not a job. I always said I don't want to become a professional photographer because there is so much stuff involved in being a professional photographer that would probably take the joy out of it for me. So I'll stay an amateur and do it for the love of it and with passion. That's what I like doing. Yeah. But back to what excites me. Yes, I using all sorts of techniques like painting, collaging, cyanotyping, gel printing, which is monoprinting with a gel plate, which is fascinating and fun. And I'm just playing. I'm playing, because I think that the element of play is such an important one with everything you're doing, with my camera, with paint, with everything, because this is how children learn, and we have forgotten to learn by play, I think, and by curiosity, because it's not the way schools these days think about teaching and about learning. I think we need to relearn to get experience by play. And it doesn't matter if the stuff that gets out of it is good or art or whatever. It's just liberating.
Absolutely.
Sometimes I say,
I think there has been real loss for many generations now. Adults have been beaten into submission, into thinking particular ways, largely, as you say, by the education system, societal norms as well. But I think that ability to actually just play and not care about the result is a massive way of experimenting with your creative side and working out what gives you joy and what doesn't. And if you don't enjoy it, stop doing it. That's usually my advice to anybody that comes to me and says, "Oh, I've been doing this and it's not working for me." Okay.
Do something else. Exactly. So sometimes when I end up with something extremely abstract, sometimes I'm just running wild with my editing. And I always say that's like when you're just throwing a pocket of paint against the wall. When you feel stuck or something like that. And then I usually do something like this. It's like just action of liberation. Just do something wild. You can do everything. Nobody says you can do everything. And there is no authority, no art authority or photography authority that can tell you can't do that.
No.
So just do it. Yeah. And I think giving yourself the permission to try out everything, to experiment, to do everything is so important. And I remember I talked to another person once and she said, I tried that, but it doesn't work for me. And I said, then don't do it, because giving yourself permission to do everything also means giving yourself permission to not do it if you don't like it. So down. It's so down. Because she tried something I tried. And she said, it doesn't work for me. And I said, then do it. Just because I'm doing it doesn't mean it works for you.
That's right.
You can do everything.
That's exactly it. And you can't be good at everything either.
Yeah, absolutely not.
You can't be brilliant. And you also can't be brilliant at something without practice.
Exactly. Yeah.
If you're not enjoying the practice, it's like a footballer. If you're not prepared to go out on the pitch and kick the ball around for, years on end before you actually want to make a career out of it, then you'll never make a career out of it.
Yeah. And if you don't enjoy being out in the field and taking photos and learning, I learned so much over the past years. Yes, there's a lot of technique involved and you need it.
Yeah.
And even calling myself a very intuitive photographer, I need to know how my camera works. It's just fun. And if you don't enjoy that, you might maybe be better off trying something else. There are so many creative pursuits out there in the world. It doesn't have to be photography. It doesn't have to be. It's not the only thing.
That's it.
Yeah.
I'm interested in what your next rabbit hole is going to be. Have you worked that out, or you just come across the rabbit hole and dive in?
I just come across the rabbit holes and dive in. The latest thing that I did, I was trying to make my own paper. That was fun. It was a mess. The whole place was a mess. I tried it. And then I had this handmade paper and I thought, what if I put it through my printer? When I got my photo printer, I was very careful what paper to use and maybe not ruin it. And recently I've been putting all sorts of stuff through my printer, which so far it has tolerated. So yeah, I really don't know. I think I see so many things that might be interesting doing. I don't want to hold my back by not trying things out. So yes, I don't know. I might come, there are so many rabbit holes that I'm down right now. And I probably will jump into another one and another one. But I don't know yet what it could be. But I try to have an open mind for everything. one of the most important things I think that I learned in the last 5 years since I really started getting into photography and into that stuff that I am passionate about, it is I need to be myself as much as I possibly can, which isn't always easy because very often we just don't know who we are in this moment. I really am trying to be as open as possible, as honest as possible, as authentic as possible in everything that I'm doing. That brought me into a position where I just enjoy so many things. And there might be times when I'm not out that much with my camera, but I still get back to it every time because it was a sort of a lifesaver for me. And I still enjoy it immensely to be out with it, finding new things.
What was the first landscape that you went into that you just said, oh, this is what I want to do?
The thing is, when I took up my camera first, I do a lot of photography very close to home. Sure. I live in a medium-sized city, which is a very green city. We have mountains, we have forests, we have ponds, we have rivers right at the edge of the city. So it doesn't take me a lot of time to get out in nature. But when my very first real landscape trip to somewhere else where I was there as a photographer was in 2017, and that was Iceland.
No.
And I was fascinated. But I didn't know what I was doing at that point. I was very much at the beginning still, but I was fascinated with the landscape, and I'm still fascinated with the landscape. And I have been back in 2023. And then I thought I might become a wildlife photographer, and I went to India, where I mostly photographed wildlife. And after that, I came back and wanted to go back in 2020. I bought myself a long lens because I wanted to become a wildlife photographer. And then there was COVID, and that whole trip didn't happen. And that's when I actually really discovered my love for the landscape and for the intimate landscapes, for small scenes, because I was stuck at home in 2020. So that's what I had to go for.
Oh, sure.
And when we were able to travel again, the first trip that I took was to Scotland. I fell in love with Scotland. I think I can find interesting and intriguing things everywhere I go.
Yep.
And every time I go to a fascinating place, I said, I'm falling in love with this place. Because I do. I fell in love with Iceland. I went to Scotland. I fell in love with Scotland. I went to Morocco in January. I fell in love with Morocco. I think the world has so many amazing places.
Absolutely.
And I'm very enthusiastic about it. I love traveling. I love exploring new things, but I also love coming back again. And I find exciting things right in front of my doorstep. So a lot of my images are from maybe 2 to 5 kilometers from my doorstep.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah.
How do you think where you live has shaped how you photograph? Clearly, you've got a particular way of taking photos and processing and so forth that is quite unique and quite different to a lot of other people's work. I'm just interested in if you feel that where you live has actually shaped that in any way.
Honestly, I don't really think so, because a lot of the stuff that I do is pretty anonymous when it comes to location, because a lot of the small things I don't, of course, I'm also fascinated by a lot of the iconic stuff that you can see, but I'm not so much interested in photographing them because there are so many photographs out there of these iconic places. Sure. So I usually, when I'm in a place like that, I take it all in. I find it fascinating. I love it, but I turn around and photograph something else, something small that's usually not very much typical for the landscape. So yes, when I look at the images that I made at the coast in Scotland, for instance, or in Iceland, they're very typical because I don't have the ocean. My country doesn't have an ocean, so this is very typical of these countries. But I really don't think that the place where I live has shaped my photography. I think it's more the place where I live in my mind. It's more the way I'm thinking than a physical place.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's also a reason why I said that I find things everywhere. It doesn't matter. So I love exploring places, but I don't think that they shape my way of seeing things. I might be wrong with that. I've never thought about that, but I've heard the question before where people think I'm shaped by the place where I live. And I don't think so. Actually, I don't think so.
Interesting.
Which is interesting, yeah.
Do you have a favorite place that you keep going back to that just keeps calling you?
At home or when I'm traveling? Anyway, okay. I do have a spot at home where I keep going to, and that's just a tiny pond with some little streams. I go back there all the time. It's one of my favorite places at home. And I always say, I shouldn't say that. It's nothing special. There's nothing special about it. It's just a little pond. There are some plants. There's dragonflies there. It's just there are reflections in the water. I love reflections. I love playing with water. Water is important for me. So this is definitely a place I love to go back to at home. There are many others, but this one comes to mind. And when it comes to traveling, I fell in love with Scotland. I will go back there this October again because it's just, there's so much beauty there. There are so many different things there. And I love the climate. I love the climate. It's not hot there. Yeah. So yes, there are some places in the world that I want to go back to. But I think irrespective of where they are, I find it is important to go back to places because I love exploring new places. When I get to new places, and it's not happening that often anymore now, but at the beginning it was like, I was so overwhelmed by the novelty of what I was seeing that I couldn't even see what was there. I was just pressing the shutter all the time, and I ended up with a lot of stuff, but I didn't really see. I didn't connect with the landscape. And where I am now is I'm far more aware of a place when I'm going there, and I want to spend more time there. So I want to go back there again and again. I want to engage. And every time I go to a place that I know or that I have been before, I see new things. I keep finding stuff that's intriguing to me, even in front of my doorstep. Yes, I probably keep going back to places. Like I can't travel. I can't travel that much. I travel, but it's not. I know people who go on 10, 12 trips a year. That's not possible for me. I have a day job and I need to earn money, and But when I travel, I want to see new places, but I love going back to places that I know too. Yeah, because I love having this connection.
Yeah, fantastic. What's your most memorable photography experience?
Oh, most memorable. I think one of the most memorable, I have a few most memorables, which is not possible. But I think what I really enjoyed a lot was the trip to Iceland in 2023, where we were inundated in storms and rain for 10 days. It was amazing. So there was a lot of fun, weird fun. We were wet, we were cold, and it was just really amazing. Yeah, and another one that I would like to mention is a trip that I took last October to Scotland, where I felt like some change of pace for me. I had already been slowing down, but this was the first time I really felt now I am no longer triggered by this novelty and I need to run around and get all excited about it, but take the time to be in the landscape and to engage with it and to befriend a tree for 2 hours. And so.
Fantastic. What about horror stories? Have you had any sketchy experiences?
Not really. I can't remember a horror story. Not really. I usually find the joyful stuff when I'm out there. No horror stories. The only horror story I can think about was when my gear was stolen. It's not a horror story but not really and still I enjoyed the time I was there after the whole thing had happened. So no, I don't think there are any real horror stories.
That's good.
No. If there were any, I've forgotten them.
You talked about having a full-time career. How do you balance everything else with photography?
I reduced my work hours a year ago. So I'm not full-time anymore. But when I was, there were times when I was working a lot. But I always tried to take some time for myself to go out with my cameras. So it was mostly weekends and stuff like that. But I enjoy that I have more time now, that I have more rabbit holes that I can jump into and explore. Yes. At times, thinking back, I mean, my boss is a photographer. So when I said, So when I remember when I wanted to go to India the first time, and we were in the middle of a huge project. And I said, listen, I got an opportunity. I could go to India, but it would be 3 weeks. He said, go. I think he would have loved to come. Yeah. So he understands my passion for photography. So no, it worked. It worked, but it's much easier now. I'm only working 3 days a week now, which is nice. And I have a schedule that is very adaptable. I don't have fixed working hours. I'm in a position where stuff needs to get done, but nobody cares when I'm doing it. That makes it easier.
Definitely. I'm interested in where photographers see photography in society. What do you see as photography's place in society?
Yeah. A very obvious thing is that with all the cameras and phones, everybody's a photographer. Everybody's a photographer. Yeah. It's just, I never was an analog photographer, so I jumped into the whole thing when it was already digital and when things were already readily available everywhere and you can see photographs everywhere. And I think it can be pretty overwhelming. And that's because there's a lot out there. And a lot out there is tries to catch our attention in a way. It's getting very loud at times and very noisy. And that's why I know that when, unlike Instagram, where everybody's posting photos on Instagram, where I think that, yes, I'm posting on Instagram, but I'm very aware of the fact that I feel drawn to the softer and to the quieter stuff and the stuff that's not like just stroll and like when you need a little bit more time to engage with, because it's not that obviously beautiful sunrise, beautiful sunsets, stuff like that. So yes, there's a lot of photography out there. So I think if people really want to become professional photographers, it must be extremely difficult to get a foot down in a world where everybody says, I can do that myself. I can do that myself.
It's getting harder for professional photographers.
Definitely.
Landscape.
Definitely.
To make money.
Definitely. Yeah, absolutely.
On out of stock photography, that's just about it.
Yeah.
It is for me.
Yeah. And so I think I don't know, is there anybody living off selling prints anymore? Because that's really difficult. I think you need to do workshops, you need to do a lot of stuff you need to do a lot of stuff that's probably not photography and that's probably not fun. And that was always my thing. I have a job and I want this to be my passion. I don't want to be burdened with the stuff that I don't like doing. And I don't want to be dependent on producing things that other people like. Yeah. So I might be sad if somebody doesn't like my image, but it doesn't hurt me financially. Yeah. And it's not a threat to my existence if people don't like my images. So that's the thing. I think it's getting really difficult, and it's really hard to do something different sometimes. And I think for people who make a living from photography, it's even harder because people have expectations. And if you do something differently than you used to do, it's pretty hard to keep your audience, I think.
Oh, definitely.
So, yeah. I know photographers, and I know a lot of photographers who make their living with, and I don't envy them. I really don't. I don't. Even if they love what they're doing, I wouldn't want to do it. I wouldn't want to.
What do you see as the biggest challenge facing photographers right now?
to stand out, I think, to do something different and to be authentic and not to fall into the trap of, as you said, doing the same as everybody else because that's what gets you the likes online, or just to not get drawn into this stream of social media where you really 2 days ago I got another of these messages. Yeah, your work is great. Do you want to have another 10,000 followers on Instagram? And I said, yeah, no, I'm not. Yeah, it's really, I think it's not difficult if you know the reasons why you photographing. Yeah. If you do it because it brings you joy, and I'm not talking about professionals, it's just people who engage in photography. If it brings you joy, if it helps your mental health, if it helps you to express yourself, if it helps you to get you out of dark spaces, if it makes you enjoy life a little more, if you can find yourself in what you're doing, then it's not complicated. It's not difficult. It gets difficult the moment you have expectations, the moment you want to earn money with it, the moment you are looking for fame. I think then it gets difficult. But if you take it as something that's good for you, it's not difficult. If you let go of this, the expectations others might have, and also of the expectations you might have sometimes. And it doesn't mean that you're not being careful about what you're doing and that you're not taking it seriously. It's not about not taking it seriously. It's about really knowing, what am I doing it for? What do I want? What do I want to say? And what does it do for me? What's the benefit? What am I really getting out of it? And I think when you know what this is, it's not that difficult.
Yeah. That's a fantastic philosophy. What's the best and or worst advice anyone's given you?
I mean, one of the first and best advices that I got was when I started my mentorship with Alistair. You don't need a style because you're not the same person every day. Right. And there are no limits. You're sitting in the middle. He said something like, you're sitting in the middle of the ocean. You can get everywhere. And this was like, and the worst advice, that must have been something when I took my camera, rule of thirds, and stick with the rules, and I need to learn them all, and you need your own style. So yeah, great. I don't listen to that stuff anymore. So I hope that I have freed myself from that enough to not listen to this anymore.
We've talked a lot about what you really like about being a photographer. What do you hate about being a photographer?
I don't hate anything about being a photographer. I love it. There is nothing I hate about it.
You don't have a least favorite thing?
A least favorite thing? No, really, I don't. I think I don't. I don't do the stuff that I don't like, I think. Even that's a hard thing. Is there anything I hate? I like being out with my camera. I like editing. I like being out in nature more than I like sitting in front of my computer, but it's not something I hate, because I know there are people who say, I hate editing. I don't want it. I want to take my photos, and I hate sitting in front of my computer and editing, but I don't hate that. So what do I hate? There is nothing I hate.
No.
Not really.
I don't hate it, but I don't like getting up early for dawn shoot.
Yeah.
I don't like it.
Yeah. The thing is, I don't feel that I need to do that a lot. I like being out there in sunrise, of course, but I'm not a typical, I'm going out for sunrise and I'm going out for sunset. So you will find me go out in the middle of the day in broad sunlight, because I think you can photograph any time of the day and in every condition. I don't feel the way that you can only photograph when I can photograph in harsh light. I don't care that much. So if I feel like getting up in the morning because I want to go on a sunrise shoot, then I'm up for it and I like it. If I don't like it because I want to stay in bed, I stay in bed and I don't do it.
Yeah, I do that all too often. It's been fantastic talking to you.
Yeah, sure.
Are there any photographers out there that you think I should be talking to on the podcast?
Yeah. Well, I was going through your list and you already had a lot of them when I was thinking. So I needed to dig a little deeper. And I know that you just helped my friend, Madeline Lannock, who is a very close friend of mine. And you already did that. So usually I would have suggested her. I know that you had Alistair, but whom I was thinking about was John Barclay. I was happy to meet him last year in October on that photography retreat in Scotland. And he's an amazing photographer. And I love his philosophy of being out in the landscape and that's engaging and his slow approach. So I think he would be a good fit. I didn't see him on your list yet. So
I haven't spoken to him, and I don't believe he's even on my list. I've got a very long list, but I don't.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you for that.
Oh, yeah.
And lastly, and for some people most importantly, do you like pineapple on pizza?
I haven't had it for a while, but I'm not against it. I like the combination of pineapple and ham, so yeah, it works for me. Also on toast. It's something, I think it's something very 70s. The younger people don't know it anymore, but that Hawaii style is, yeah.
All right. Thank you, Astrid. It's been wonderful getting to know you and spending some time talking to you. And I really enjoyed our conversation and hope you did too. Where can people find you?
I did. I have a website where I have some of my work. I'm on Instagram and I'm on Facebook. I post there sub-regularly. And what I started at the beginning of the year is a short newsletter. I call it Musings, where people could sign up for. And it's mostly some thoughts I have and something occurs to me. And there is some images in there. So, yeah, that's where I can be found.
Thanks very much, Astrid.
Thank you very much for having me. I enjoyed it a lot. It was a great conversation. Right.
Have you tried to challenge yourself with your landscape photography and gone down some rabbit holes? Please leave a comment below and let me know the rabbit holes you've been down and the ones that you're looking forward to getting down. Thanks again for listening to Landscape Photography World. I hope you enjoyed the show and keep listening because I'll be joined by some great guests in upcoming episodes. You can find my work in this podcast at gruntswinburnphotography.com along with prints and photography gear. I'm also on Vero, Photo, YouTube, Instagram and Facebook. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I'm Grant Swinburne and I hope to see you out shooting soon.